I think debatably one of the most annoying things to go against inside Raid Shadow Legends is a champion or a team or a boss that just will not die, that simply just won't sit down and they just keep going. And I'm going to be talking about one of the champions that really helps to make those kinds of teams possible, even still in the meta going into 2025, halfway through January as we are here on the day of recording this, which is the 18th. So you're going to be seeing this a little bit in the future, probably like the 22nd or something like that. So never fear though, the information is still good. And who are we talking about? It is going to be Marichka, the Unbreakable. Now, before you click off this video saying, I don't have Marichka, she's a void legendary, I'm probably not going to get her. That is great. I understand that you may not have Marichka, but one thing to keep in mind is that we have mandatory PvP engagements inside Raid Shadow Legends, so you have to win one live arena battle per day. We obviously have tag team arena resets that happen where players have to push to get their Ramen 2 missions done. We have live arena where you have to push to get Marius as well. And then lastly, we do have classic arena where you're going to have to, just fight teams, right? Certainly if you're trying to place inside Platinum. So with that being said, even if you don't have a certain champion, it is still important for you to understand and comprehend how that champion is going to be built and how that champion is going to function on a particular team, because then you can effectively counter them, right? So if I'm going into a live arena battle and somebody picks Galathier and I don't know Galathier's kit, or I don't know how he's built, I don't know his base stats, I don't know if he wants resistance or accuracy, how realistically do you think my chances of successfully countering him are? If I go into a live arena battle and somebody picks Ultimate Death Knight and I know the masteries he's going to have, I know the gears he's going to have, I know his skill set, I know what he does, how effectively do you think I can counter Ultimate Death Knight, right? So it's very important to really consider these things, that it's going to be useful for everybody, right? So we're going to be showing off Marichka today. Let's go ahead, let's take a look at her kit and see what she can do. Now, first of all, she does have a companion champion who is Taurus the Fierce, who we are not going to be directly talking about inside this video, but keep in mind that they are so much more powerful with that duo combination. A1 attacks one enemy, one random ally will team up and join the attack. The ally joining the attack will always use their default skill, and then if Taurus the Fierce is on the same team, they will always be the one to join this champion's attack. This is a very, very, very strong A1. If you have her on a team with a lot of damage dealers, I run her inside Hydra, so that's the case for me. You can get a lot of extra damage out of this particular skill. It is obviously random, so for example, in the arena, if you aren't running her with a Taurus, you can have, your Harima join with the A1, but you could also have your Ultimate Death Knight, right? So it can be very much RNG based in terms of how good that is, essentially. A2, Font of Tenacity, fully restores all allies' decreased max HP, which is absolutely huge, by the way. Then heals all allies by 40%. Of this champion's max HP with a base HP of almost 22,000 is insane. Places a shield buff and a protected strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to, again, 20% of this champion's max HP, so she's going to heal everybody's decreased max HP, which is incredibly strong for HP-based damage dealers inside the game, with the only exception being Taurus. So if you don't know, on HP-based damage dealers, as their maximum HP is decreased, so too is their damage multiplication formula, right? So they can do less damage. So think of Magnar, Eric's, those sorts of champions, right? Whereas with Taurus, he just ignores that. He always goes based off of his, max HP when entering the battle, essentially. I have something in my eye, apparently, which is always fun. So this is an incredibly strong skill. 40% heal on this champion's max HP is insane because you can build her with so much HP, as you're going to see today. We have an A3, which is Nurtured Friendship, removes all debuffs from all allies, then fills the turn meters of all allies by 15%, fills the turn meter of each ally by an extra 5% for each debuff removed from them, also increases the resistance of all allies by 5 for each debuff removed, grants an extra turn, oh my god, if 5 or more debuffs were removed. So this doesn't mean that you have to have 5 debuffs stacked on a single champion, or 5 debuff types, right? So if we have a champion with decreased defense and weaken across your entire team of 4 champions, that's going to be enough to grant her an extra turn, which is incredibly strong. This is on a 4-turn cooldown, which is very nice as well, and then having the potential extra turn into either her A1 or in a very strong A2 is so incredibly useful. She's such a good champion. We have a passive, which is really what she's known for. Revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 75% turn meter whenever this champion is killed. And you'll notice that this is the passive effect. It's the active effect that has the cooldown. So every single time you kill a Marichka, she's going to revive everybody with 50% HP and 75% turn meter. This champion keeps your team going and keeps your team alive, quite literally and figuratively, right? She is so incredibly strong. 50% HP and 75% turn meter is one of the strongest revives inside the entire game at an AoE level. So if she's, you know, the last champion that's left inside like a Doom Tower run or something like that, you don't really have to worry because she's going to have everybody brought back. And then obviously, you know, if you have another reviver, especially like an Ancora or something like that, that you can pair with her, a Lady Noelle that we just got, that can be so incredibly strong. Or certainly if you're lucky and you have 2 Marichkas, it gets even more ridiculous, right? Then we have the active effect, which is just equally as broken. Places a block damage buff on all allies for 1 turn whenever an ally receives a bomb, poison, or HP burn debuff. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. We don't really care about that. This is insane. Absolutely insane. The reason for that is if you think about live arena, some of the most common champions that you're seeing Nishax, Gaius the Gleeful, the champion that places bombs that are based on HP. I have forgotten his name though. He's the imp-looking dude, the mythical champion. You have Gizmak, who's placing HP burns. You have a lot of champions that are potentially placing poisons. Even somebody like a Prince Kaimar can have a chance to place it on his A1. And the thing to consider with this is an AoE block damage when a singular champion receives any of those debuffs. So even if you have, like, let's just say a ninja who comes in with his A2 and he does the single target hit on everybody, or on one champion rather. So let's say all the hits landed on one champion, like maybe a UDK or something like that didn't have stone skin. If that poison lands on UDK, that's enough to trigger this passive. Everybody gets AoE block damage. This champion is strong enough to the point that frequently I will go against teams in the arena and I will pick something like an Armand's, a UDK, a Taurus, and Marichka, and then maybe like a Wukong or something like that, right? And the other team will be trying to run a bomb strategy, and it is so strong to have her that it's to the point where they ban my Marichka instead of my Armands. Now, if you know anything about live arena, you know how much that talks to this champion's kit, because people ban Armands as often as they pick him in almost every situation, right? He has like 100% pick rate at this point, and his ban rate has to be way up there as well. Like, it's obscene that you can pick a champion that would get banned instead of Armands, right? Like, that's essentially unheard of. Even insanely overpowered champions, like, for example, I can't find him apparently, even like Galathier, right? I would say he doesn't get banned as much as Armands. Granted, he's not picked as much, I wouldn't think either, because, you know, he's mythical. But that being said, let's go ahead and let's talk about how I have my particular Marichka built. She is absolutely fantastic. As you can see, 122k power. I want to showcase this because very recently I redid the build essentially, and I believe that I had actually done a video on it there as well, essentially for my live arena or my arena guide for building good champions. A couple things to mention here. I'm not necessarily showcasing relics. You could easily put her inside a gilded dragonstone. You could put her inside the golden elixir. Basically anything that's going to allow her to survive, to heal, anything like that, right? So, and the additional stats are obviously going to be very useful. Dealing 2% more damage is kind of useless, right? So a lot of these turn meter reduction effects boosted by 15%, they're not going to benefit her. There's not a lot of relics that are going to be beneficial on her, and I'm certainly not going to waste my resources to equip her with a relic that isn't going to do any good. So how do we have her built? Well, importantly, first of all, we have her in a 4-piece stone skin. You want that. You want Marichka to be surviving on your team. You want Marichka to be able to avoid any sort of sleeps, provokes, stuns, petrifications, any sort of nasty stuff like that that's going to come your way. So that's why the stone skin is there. The stone skin also ensures essentially that with very few exceptions, she can't be one-shot. Keep in mind, she has a passive that places the block damage whenever she receives a bomb, so you're not particularly worried about bombs. Now, she is very unique because you're not necessarily worried about resisting a lot of stuff either. So you don't have to resist bombs. You don't have to resist getting stripped, right? Because even if she dies, it's fine. She's going to bring everybody back with high HP and high turn meter. And I was confused why a lot of players were not building her with high amounts of resistance. Now, that being said, you certainly can. Resistance is a very, very viable build for Marichka, but it's not what I chose to focus on. Next, we do have her in a 4-piece Relentless set, which is so good on her, and I've seen such a change inside the live arena since equipping this on her. So 18% chance to get an extra turn. Each consecutive chance reduces by 45%, and if you'll remember, she has a chance of getting an extra turn on her A3. With her A1, if you have Taurus, which I'm lucky enough to, she can just keep bringing him in if she keeps bumping extra turns, right? Which is just obscene. So she is very, very strong in this particular build. These are the stats that I have on her. So 106,000 HP. Obviously, if you have, somebody getting healed for 40% of her max HP, that's over a 40,000 heal. That's going to bring almost anybody in the game up to full, right? Like, certainly most support champions, certainly damage dealers, right? 4,400 defense. She's also putting a 20k shield out there, right? Like a 20,600 shield out there, which is pretty obscene. We have her at 263 on the speed, 438 on the resistance. Accuracy does not matter. Now, in terms of masteries, how I have her built out is I do actually come over to Unshakable. Another very solid way to build her would be Timely Intervention. So whenever somebody is getting low on your team, you can have her boost her turn, essentially. I did build her out inside Counterattack Masteries because I thought, what the hell, let's try it. Not as effective as I thought, so I wouldn't recommend it. I would instead recommend coming over to Bulwark. So she's essentially just going to soak up extra damage from your team. Another few options that you could do is realistically Elixir of Life if you just want to absolutely max how much HP she has. Wouldn't recommend it, though. I think Timely Intervention is going to be better in almost every single situation. She's obviously not placing debuffs, so we don't need, any sort of accuracy or anything like that on her. And if you're an absolute freak, I suppose you could come over to War Master and build her out inside that as well, although I really don't see why you would, because she's not a DPS champion, right? So let's go ahead and let's talk about the gear. This is what we have her built out in. It is not min-maxed whatsoever. You're going to see a lot of like attack and crit rate and crit damage rolls on this gear. It's just what I have on my account. So if you have better gear, you can 100% get a stronger build on your Marichka. But I do think that this piece right here, it's got like triple crit damage and crit rate and then speed and attack on it. Like, this is terrible. This is literally the worst rolls that you could have possibly for this champion. The only thing that's good about it is the main HP stat and the HP Ascension. You might want a bit of speed on there, but I'd rather have resistance, defense percentage, and then either flat defense or flat HP, along with, the other stat, essentially. So this is the worst possible piece that you could have on her, and you can still see how strong she's going to be. We have a decent piece here, though. Another decent piece here. I've talked about this many times, especially inside my arena guides and whatnot. You want to strategize for HP as opposed to defense. So I recommend, if you're using the Hell Hades optimizer, to manually do it, so on the balanced mode, and essentially choose HP as the highest priority, and then defense is like priority 6. And the reason for that is the strongest damage dealers inside the game are going to be using the strongest damage dealing sets. All of those sets and most of their skills are predicated on ignoring defense. So unless you're always going to be running, a Marichka and a Harima together, and you can guarantee that, you want to really just focus on HP, because you're more likely to survive a hit because you have higher HP as opposed to surviving a hit because you have higher defense in today's meta. Not to mention, obviously, with her, the higher her HP, the higher the scaling is going to be for heals, fields, all those sorts of good things. So let's go ahead and let's showcase what she is capable of. I'm going to go inside the classic arena because live arena is annoying, and it's wild. I'm in like high gold 3, and it's pretty questionable, some of the performance that I'm having. If you're curious, I have a 55% win rate, 4,600 points, 2,800 battles. I'm ranked number 7,340 in the entire world. It's a bit depressing, but it is what it is. I don't focus on it too much. So let's go ahead and let's showcase what she is capable of. So let's run her against a team like this. For the showcase, I will be showing her with Taurus, because this is a team that I have specifically formulated. And I can also stress the fact that even if you don't have Taurus, you are still going to use Marichka. And I know that for a fact because I pulled Marichka far before I pulled Taurus, and I built her, and I used her, and I loved her, right? So you can easily use her without the Taurus. She's still an incredibly strong champion. As you can see, we got the block damage up when we received bombs. Unfortunately, Ancora ate the petrification that was coming in from the Mithrala, so we are essentially going to get our butt kicked here. Potentially, at least, just because when she dies, she's going to revive everybody, right? This was a very sloppy team to take her against, essentially, so we're going to go ahead and back out. I'll show you a few other fights here just so you can get an idea. That one was more so just to showcase the fact that, like, hey, you can get block damage from the bombs. She's going to be very strong, especially with Taurus, against any sort of AoE damage dealers, because obviously they're going to counterattack anytime that happens. She's going to be strong against anybody who's placing debuffs, especially, you know, crowd controls and stuff like that, since she is built out inside the Stone Skin for at least one turn. If you're not going to build her in Stone Skin and Relentless, I would recommend putting her inside 2 turns of Stone Skin instead. As you can see, we just got like 3 or 2 extra turns there back to back, which allowed us to essentially go in with the A1 and almost take out the Tormund, which is pretty cool. And then, you know, Taurus is just doing Taurus things. Still one of the best HP damage dealers inside the entire game. We get another extra turn there because of the debuff cleansing. And then Taurus just absolutely shreds through everybody as well. So we ended up getting like 3 or 4 extra turns in that fight alone. Some of which were because of her gear set. Some of which were because of her skill, her A3. So that being said, how do you want to run her? Well, I recommend running her inside any sort of a team where you need tankiness, right? You just seen a... oh, I can't even remember his name. A He-Man that had a lot of buffs on him, and he couldn't do much damage to us, which is so strong. And you want to run her against any sort of debuffs that are coming into you where you need a cleanse. You also want to run her with, you know, preferably a Taurus. You don't necessarily want to run her into somebody that has a block revive, right? So, for example, a Lydia is a pretty decently strong counter to her, because if she tries to do that AoE revive after she dies, then of course Lydia just blocks it, and you know, it is what it is. You're just dead, right? So something to consider there. As you can see, she gets the block damage up on the Taurus there, which means he's going to be able to stay alive even if those bombs were to detonate, and we can just keep counterattacking. We're not really too worried about the bombs on the Ancora, because Marichka is just going to come in and cleanse them all off, and then she gets an extra turn. And then we just absolutely obliterate them with Taurus. Let's go ahead, let's keep fighting a few more teams here. This is a very good showcase of how to counter Armands as well, because these 3 champions are like the holy trinity of countering Armands. If you have these 3 particular champions, you do not have to ever worry about a Armands team again, at least inside Classic Arena, because obviously in Live Arena they could just easily ban one of these 3. It's so effective, because Taurus is always going to counterattack when Marichka is attacked. Armands is going to do his AoE, which ensures that she is attacked. Ancora is going to eat the stun from my Taurus. So Taurus is always just free to counterattack. As long as that's not a Stone Skin Armands, which is not, you'll go ahead and... well, they don't even have the AI set up apparently. So you'll still see that we do get some counterattacks off. In this particular case, though, it definitely wasn't as good for us because Marichka got sheeped, which means that she wasn't able to do really anything about the detonation of the bombs there, which was a bit of a shame. So we'll just wait for her to die. Everybody comes back. We have like full HP and full turn meter now. Now Armands is going to do his A3, which is a little bit worrying. I love when a team is set up so poorly that it works in their favor, right? Because Armands should have opened with his A2, but he didn't because his AI wasn't set up, so that actually ended up favoring him, which is a little bit of malarkey. A little bit of RNG there too, certainly. So it is what it is. This isn't, you know, me showing how good I am at PvP or anything like that. It's simply showing off a champion for you guys to get an idea of how they're built. And in today's meta, at least a lot of... again, we have an Armands that's just opening up with the A3, which is a bit of a shame. A lot of champions in today's meta, Marichka specifically, are built with a little bit higher resistance than I have. So that is something to consider as well. But for the most part, you are going to see them in a Relentless Stone Skin combination. Or, you know, something that has a similar effect, right? So, for example, if you have her in a pinpoint set, it's going to give you kind of a very similar effect to Stone Skin, albeit a whole lot less tanky, right? So, let's go ahead. Let's see how quick we can take down this team here. And I'm kind of just messing around, not really worrying about the champions I pick, just running the same team each time. And you can really see how effective we're just clearing this gold 5 team page, essentially, right? So if you actually put a little bit more strategy and forethought into what you were doing, I'm sure you could clear it even more effectively than I am. So that is just something to consider. We get a counterattack coming in there on the Mithrala. We sit down the Thor, and then the only champion left is going to be the Torment. Now, as you can see, Encore is so nice because she just keeps eating the debuffs from my Thor. So any sort of debuffs that are resulting in like freeze, stuns, sleeps, all that sort of good stuff, she's just going to take care of me for me, which is fantastic. Let's go ahead. Let's run against this team here as kind of the final showcase. We do also have, soon after this video goes live, another Siege breakdown coming as well. So make sure to let me know down below what you guys think of the sieges that I've been showcasing so far on my channel. And if you guys enjoy the breakdown, I know they seem to be doing pretty good on YouTube. It looks like there's a decent amount of views coming in and a decent amount of likes and whatnot. I hit the mic there, which was my bad. A decent amount of likes and views and all those sorts of good things, which is usually a pretty good indicator of an audience that's enjoying the content. So definitely going to keep it up as long as the support continues, essentially, right? So I do definitely enjoy making that particular content as well, so I'm happy to, you know, basically just showcase what my clan is able to do. I know last week we essentially went ahead and beat a top 60 clan in the entire world, which felt pretty good. It was pretty cool, and it's definitely some bragging rights. So that being said, though, I hope this guide and showcase was helpful for you in terms of either building your Marichka if you just pulled her, in which case, congratulations, you just got one of the best champions in the entire game, or countering her inside PvP, right? So, that being said, thank you guys all so much for the support on the channel and the video. See you next time.